Okay. I kind of don't remember what we did last time. I didn't even get a chance to review, but it's been I think I know. We were talking about weak hadith, right? Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah. Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah. And we were talking about how to deal with weak ahadith. Yes, that's what we were doing. And we talked about at the end of the day, the conditions for us to use the weak hadith. What do we use them for? Or how do we use them? When should we use them? Of course, authentic hadith, we use it to derive our deen. But weak hadith, they are, they're probabilistic. It could be the Rasulullah said it, could not be. So they're not used for aqidah, to derive aqidah. Typically they're not used to derive aqidah. They're typically not used to derive fiqh. But they are, the scholars say, they can be used for tazkiyah to nafs. So, the virtues of surahs or virtues of certain aspects, if you do tasbih these many times or whatever, or if you read this surah on this time or what have you. So there's the tazkiyah elements. So the weak hadith are used for that purpose. But the criteria is you can use them for tazkiyah, but the hadith should not be da'if jiddan. They should not be severely weak, very very weak. Okay, and they should not contradict the Quran or the Sunnah. Okay. So in that case, you can use the weak hadith. But you use it for yourself. You don't use it to encourage others, because you can't, they're not binding. The weak hadith are not binding by consensus. So because they can't be relied upon 100%, yes, you can use it for tazkiyah, yes, you can use it for yourself, but ideally you should not recommend to other people that you should do this and that. Okay? You should always encourage the authentic. Okay. Later on, the weak hadith had been further scrutinized very, 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 very heavily, especially in the last 100, 200 years. So, like I told you, they've been placed along with mawdu'at, which are the fabricated hadith, which is not the right thing to do. They're completely and not even in the same playing field, right? So weak hadith are far superior than fabricated hadith, because remember we said that a mawdu' we are certain Rasulullah didn't say it, but weak hadith it's possible Rasulullah said it. Okay, so there's a night and day difference between the two, so they shouldn't be clubbed together. Wallahu a'lam. There's a little bit of topic about Isra'īliyyāt. I'll just spend 3 seconds on it literally. So so there were some Jews that converted at the time of Rasulullah to Islam, and then there was some tabi'een that also converted, and there were some tabi'een. The most famous Sahabi was Abdullah ibn Salam. Okay, a lot of hadith is quoted by him. So they were Jewish descent. There's others as well. For example, the Ummahat al-Mu'mineen, Safiya bint Huyay, I always mess up her name, radiyallahu anha. Safiya bint Huyay. Okay, so Safiya was a Jewish woman. She is woman. Now Rasulullah married her after the Khaybar expedition. So she was a Yahudiya. So at any rate, there were Jews that converted to Islam. Rasulullah said, the authentic hadith, I guess I'll spend more than 3 seconds on it, just so that to remind you, I've told you this before in different settings. But Rasulullah said this, okay? That Abu Hurairah said, قال كان أهل الكتاب يقرؤون التوراة. The people of the book, they used to read Torah بالعبرانية, in Hebrew, ويفسرونها بالعربية, and they used to do the tafsir of the Torah in Arabic. لأهل الإسلام, for the Muslims. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تصدقوا, do not believe everything that you hear. لا تصدقوا أهل الكتاب, do not believe everything from the people of the book. ولا تكذبوهم, and don't deny and don't reject everything either. Okay, this is Bukhari. Okay, Ṣaḥīḥ Bukhari, this is a hadith. So Abu Huraira is telling us that at that time the people used to do tafsir of the Torah and explain it to the Muslims. So Rasulullah said, this is how you should treat the what are called the Isra'īliyyāt. You shouldn't believe everything you hear, but at the same time you don't reject everything. Well, the reason is because the stuff in the Hebrew Bible could be true or could be false. We don't know, but if it's true, then you don't want to reject it, and if it's false, you don't want to accept it, right? But you don't know because the authenticity is not clear. وَقُولُوا, and Rasulullah said, آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَمَا أُنزِلَ, and he quoted the ayah from the Quran that we believe in Allah and what He sent to us. Okay, which means we believe that Torah was revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we believe in it. That's what it means. Not that Rasulullah here is talking about the Quran necessarily. So this is evidence number one, that it's okay to learn the Jewish and the Christian scriptures, because Rasulullah said Ahl al-Kitab, which includes the Christian and the Jews. Okay, and the second hadith is also very, very famous hadith. Rasulullah said, قال بلغوا عني ولو آية. Everybody knows this one. Everybody knows this one. Essentially, spread from me, even if it's one ayah. Rasulullah said, everybody knows this hadith, right? Even if you teach one ayah to somebody, that's barakah. Rasulullah said, teach people even if it's one ayah. وحدثوا عن بني إسرائيل, and narrate from the Bani Israel, wala haraj, and there's no harm in it. And then the famous statement, the mutawatir part of the hadith, وَمَنْ كَذِبَ عَلَيَّ مُتَعَمِّدًا فَلْيَتَبَوَّأُ مَقْعَدَهُ مِنَ النَّارِ, that whoever lies upon me deliberately, meaning attributes something falsely to me deliberately, then let him find a seat in hellfire. So, bottom line is, Rasulullah sanctioned that Isra'īliyyāt can be narrated. Don't believe everything in here and don't reject everything in here. This is a much complex, deeper topic. I'm just kind of giving you an idea. At the end of the day, what I'm telling you is, in our hadith literature, there are Isra'īliyyāt. I'm not going to say a lot of Isra'īliyyāt, but there's certain amount of Isra'īliyyāt. What is Isra'īliyyāt? For example, there would be stories of Nuh alayhi salam in there. For example, the stories of the prophets. We don't have a lot of details of the stories of the prophets, right? We don't have in the Quran and the non-Isra'īliyyāt hadith. We don't have a lot of detail about the stories of the prophets. So where do we find the stories of the prophets? It is really in a hadith that we learned from the Jews, right? That were narrated. And some believe they were not from the Jews. If you look at the tafsir literature is full of details of the stories of the prophets that you have no idea how they even know, because they're not necessarily attributed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They're opinions of the statements of the tabi'een and tabi'een and opinions of the Sahaba, and they're not necessarily marfu' hadith to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So how do they know all of this stuff, like how big was the ship of Nuh alayhi salam? And I'm just using that as an example. For example, the hadith about the very, very famous hadith about the height of Adam alayhi salam, where he was 60 cubits or whatnot. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know, don't worry about it. But there's opinions out there that's from the Isra'īliyyāt. Some disagree. Wallahu alam. When we have very, very advanced classes, we can talk about that. But I'm just giving you an idea. Isra'īliyyāt exist. Okay, so be cognizant of that. Some of the Isra'īliyyāt are copy paste, literally word for word, just translated in Arabic from Hebrew Bible. For example, I'll give you one very famous example. You know the shajara of the tree of the prophets, all the way from Adam alayhi salam to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all of that. Where do you think it came from? Yeah, it's not. The order is not clear from the Quran. It is not necessarily from authentic ahadith. So it's actually a very Isra'īliyyāt. It's exactly like the Bible. Even the name Methuselah, I don't know if you know, who was the supposed grandfather of Nuh alayhi salam in the Hebrew Bible. Methuselah, that name, literally, that name, Arabized, is in the tafsir literature. I can show you right now. And that's from the Bible. Anyway, long story short, it's there. Okay? So there's 3 rules, except when it is in sync with the Quran and Sunnah. But again, this is with everything. Okay? Second, reject it if it contradicts the Quran and Sunnah. Okay? And the third is you neither accept it or reject it. If you don't know, if you don't know. Okay? So barakallahu feek. It was right here. Habibi. Okay. Yes, I'm slow today.
I didn't do my homework still.
No, I didn't review my notes today. Okay. All right. This is something you guys should know. So now let's talk about the major narrators of hadith from the Sahaba. Okay. Let's say we have about 20,000 unique ahadith in the universe of ahadith. 20,000 unique ahadith. I mean not chains, but these are actual unique ahadith, right? Their wordings could be slightly different, but you consider it still one. Okay? All right? We talked about that some time ago. Not all of the Sahaba were narrators of hadith, right? They were not all narrators of hadith because everybody had specialties and interests, right? Some were into the specialists in the battlefield. That was their expertise in archery or horse riding. Some were in the specialties of poetry. That's what they liked. They did poetry, like Hassan bin Thabit. He was into poetry. Some were into ansab, the lineage, the science of lineage. For example, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh was an expert in lineage, and he knew, like anybody from any tribe, how they connected to other people, for example. So that was the expertise. Similarly, there were experts, Sahaba, that were experts of the Quran. That's what they did. They recited. They were experts in the Quran. Some of the Sahaba, they were experts of fiqh. For example, Mu'adh ibn Jabal, the famous Mu'adh ibn Jabal. We started with him essentially when we talked about the Hujjiyat al-Sunnah and the initial methodology, where he was going to Yemen and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, "I love you." That Mu'adh ibn Jabal, he was an expert faqih. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "No one of the Sahaba." He was a young guy. He was younger than you guys probably, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was around 50 years old at that time, and he said that he is the most afqah minkum, or some wordings like that. He's the most knowledgeable he is the most knowledgeable of halal and haram. Obviously, the term fiqh didn't exist at the time of Rasulullah, but he said he's the most knowledgeable of halal and haram from amongst you. Okay, so that was Mu'adh ibn Jabal. So that was his expertise. What were some of the other expertise? Narration of hadith. That was their expertise. So you find a select few that were super experts in hadith and recording hadith, memorizing hadith, what Rasulullah did, said, etc., etc. So from them, obviously, majority of our sunnah comes from those narrators. Who are they? We're not going to go too much into detail about any of them, but you'll recognize these names. Abu Huraira, he narrated the most ahadith in the body of ahadith. We have 5,000 plus narrations from Abu Huraira.
And he was the youngest of all.
I don't know if wallahi, I don't know his age. He was a Yemeni. He came at the time of Khaybar, toward the end of Rasulullah's life, and he became Ashab al-Sufa. Anyway, but this is not a biography of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. But anyway, he has the most narrations in the body of hadith literature. Okay? The second is Abdullah ibn Umar, which is the son of Umar radiallahu anhu. Abdullah ibn Umar. He has about 2,000, about half the size of narrations from Abu Hurairah. Then it's Anas bin Malik. You remember the little servant of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He has a lot of narrations, around 2,000 plus narrations. Then we have Abdullah ibn Abbas, another young, and you can see they're all young, right? They're all young. Like I don't know Abu Hurairah, but he's saying he's young as well. Yes, so so all of these are young, and one of the reasons why we have more narrations from them is because they're young, because they're the one who are growing up and growing old and teaching the tabi'een, and those tabi'een, and they're teaching the tabi'een. So obviously the long-lasting narrations are going to be from whom? The young Sahaba, right? Clear? And also because of their expertise, because that was what they were interested in. So that's why you don't hear about a lot of hadith from Umar radiallahu anhu, or from Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, or Ali radiallahu anhu. You don't hear. Okay. Another young Sahabiya, who was that? She was Al-Mu'mineen Aisha radiallahu anha. She was a faqihah. She was a scholar of her time. She used to teach like loads and loads and loads of Sahaba and Tabi'een. Then we have Jabir ibn Abdullah, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. You've heard these names. Abdullah Amr bin al-As, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. He has a few narrations, but you see it's dwindling. Okay? I don't know why I missed Aisha here. I don't know why. Where? Oh, okay. I'm totally not with it today. Please excuse me. Okay, clear? So you see why we have hadith from there. They're all very young. Okay, the majority of the hadith narrators. Okay, so I'm going to skip the history of the hadith, but I'm going to talk about one thing. I'm going to talk about what should I talk about? Okay. So there are genres of there are types of books of hadith. Okay, one of them is called a Jāmiʿ. Okay, Jāmiʿ. One is called a Musnad, and there's a reason they exist. Okay, one is called a Sunan. We'll just leave it at that. Okay, Sunan. Jāmiʿ. What is a Jami'? It means it's a comprehensive book of hadith. Jami'. Comprehensive. And I'll tell you what that means. Musnad is really also comprehensive. So comprehensive and organized topically. There's more types. I'm just not going to talk about them. I'm just going to talk about the main ones. They're organized topically. This is comprehensive most of the time, I think. I don't know of any exceptions. I think all of them are comprehensive. All the Muslims out there. But they're not organized topically. They're organized by narrator. They're organized by the narrator. So good luck finding. Musnad Imam Ahmad. Yes, so the most famous Musnad is. I'll talk about that. Yeah, but I'm giving you these categories. Sunan. What is a sunan? The purpose of the sunan is not to be comprehensive. This is about traditionally what was called halal and haram, which is now we understand that is focused on fiqh only. A hadith of fiqh, organized topically. Okay, topical. Clear? Okay.
So if you want to find the subject, you go to the Musnad. Good luck to you otherwise.
Oh yeah. You can. You cannot. Yes. So what is an example of Jāmiʿ?
Tirmidhī.
Yeah, very nice. Good job. Excellent.
Say it again.
You get an A. MashaAllah.
Say it again.
Tirmidhī. Tirmidhī.
Tirmidhī.
Yeah. So we have. I'm just talking about the famous books that you all know. There's many more. Okay. But Bukhari is a Jāmiʿ. Muslim is a Jāmiʿ. And like you said, what is commonly known as Sunan al-Tirmidhī, and there is a historical reason for that, it's actually Jāmiʿ al-Tirmidhī. Okay? Okay? Musnad, there's a lot of Musnads out there. Musnad Abu Ya'la, Musnad, we saw an example earlier, a few things ago, al-Humaydi, but there's a Musnad of Ahmad, Musnad Ahmad. Okay, I'm going to show you some of that. Okay, Sunan. What are the Sunan? Tirmidhi is usually bucketed in this here. The reason is because what are the most two authentic books of hadith? Bukhari and Muslim, right? So they are a class on its own. They are considered a class on their own. So you'll say 2 plus what are called the 4 Sunan. What are the 4 Sunan?
Abu Dawud.
Yes, Nasā'i, Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, and Ibn Mājah. Yes, these are called the 4 Sunan. This is your 6 books of hadith. Okay, and then the 7th book, actually, Ibn Mājah. I'll just talk about it now. I'll talk about it later, but because I'm mixing 2 topics, but that's okay. Ibn Mājah actually is the weakest of all of the 6 books, and why it became part of the 6 famous books is it's a historical reason. It just happened to be the case, but it was really going to be Muwaṭṭaʻ Imām Mālik. Okay, but one of the reasons why Muwaṭṭaʻ Imām Mālik is so the scholars explain that all the ahadith in Malik are consumed in these 6 books anyway, all of them. So Malik on its own is not adding anything new. So each of these is adding something new. Yes, they share a lot of ahadith amongst themselves. There's a lot of commonalities amongst themselves, but each one brings some new ahadith. Okay, a lot of more ahadith. So that's why one of the reasons that are given. But then there's Ahmad, Musnad Imam Ahmad, which is not. It was going to be used instead of Ibn Mājah, I believe, but it didn't make it, again, because it's a Musnad that's not topical. It's not very easy to consume because it's organized by narrator. But it has a lot of authentic ahadith. So it's actually a huge treasure. It's a huge treasure. I'll talk about this in a second. Okay, let me go back to my original topic. What is a Jāmiʿ, Musnad, Sunan? So you understand Sunan, right? It is topical by fiqh. So what is fiqh? Okay, so if you take a hadith, I'm going to erase this side. What are some of the topics of Islam? What are some of the topics of Islam? There's stuff on Iman, right? The pillars of Iman. Clear? Right? There's Tawheed, there's angels, there's jinn, there's Day of Judgment, right? Qiyamah, right? Etc. You understand the pillars of Qadr, right? The pillars of Iman. Okay? Stories of the prophets, whatnot. Okay. And then you can say Quran is in here as well. Another cue I'll say in tafsir literature, the tafsir from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a hadith about the tafsir or the opinions of the Sahaba on tafsir. So all of this. Okay. Then what else is there? There's stories. There's stories from the Sirah, right? They're not necessarily about Islam, or they're just events like battles. They're called maghazi. Okay? There's battle events, maghazi. There's other Sirah events. Okay? Then there's There's history stuff, pre-Islam, what used to happen, maybe some even poetries, right? Okay, then what else is there?
Treaties.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Manaqib, the companions, the virtues of the Sahaba. How they were like, their zuhud and their asceticism, how much they used to pray. They're called manaqib, the manaqib al-ansar, the manaqib of muhajirun, and so on and so forth. And they have all this stuff. Then there are, then there's stuff on. I think there's more. I'm forgetting. Again, today is a slow day. Yeah.
How about the rules? Like
Exactly. It's ahkam. Exactly. That's the Islam part. Okay. So the hadith about on ahkam. This is where prayer, salah, right? Zakat, Sawm, fasting, right? Hajj, Umrah. What am I forgetting? Gosh. This is where Aqidah actually will fall in here. I'm sorry. This is essentially it. Okay, so this is ahkam of these are called, there's a term for this. This is called ibadat. Ibadat, yeah. And then there are mu'amalat. How to get married, how to buy and sell, how to take loans, how to sign contracts, how to free slaves, for example, the treatment of slavery or what those kind. These are called mu'amalat. Mu'amalat. What does mu'amalat mean? Dealings, right? Okay. It's actually, so if you can see, other than history stuff, this is what did I just draw? This is the hadith Jibreel. Iman, Islam, Ihsan. What is Ihsan? It's this and tazkiyah stuff, right? This is all it is. You clear? So, a book that covers all these topics, all of them, without leaving anything out, that is called a Jami'. Clear? Make sense? This is why I did what I just did. Just to tell you what Jāmiʿ means. So Bukhari and Muslim are Jami'. So you will find a hadith on everything in this area. Not all hadith, obviously authentic hadith that meet their criteria, but it covers all these topics. That's why when we were going through the table of contents of Bukhari last time, you saw it was a lot of chapters. Okay? I'll show you what the chapter of a Musnad looks like in a second. Can you imagine what the chapter of a Sunan might be? It'll be these things. That's it. Not these things. Nothing on history, typically. Nothing on history, nothing on tafsir, typically. Nothing on aqidah stuff, iman stuff. No. Their goal is what? To create books for fiqh purposes, for ahkam, they're called ahkam, rulings. Okay? We'll look at that. Okay, inshallah. You want to know now? Okay. I think everybody's into it now. Alhamdulillah. I'm also picking up some steam. Let me know if you guys can see. Okay. So just to get this out of there, let me show you a Musnad. Okay? The table of contents of a Musnad. You'll be shocked. Not shocked. I mean, now you won't be shocked. Oh, my internet. So let's look at the most famous Musnad book out there called Musnad Ahmad. Okay? Musnad Ahmad's table of contents. Again, this is my website. I can't. I'm having a slow day today. So Imam Ahmad started with the Ashara Mubashara. You know the Ashara Mubashara? The 10 that were promised paradise? He started with them first. Okay? So the 10 promised paradise. So he has a Musnad of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. So he only has about 81 chains and hadith from Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. That's it. Just 81. Okay, so that's how little Abu Bakr actually narrated hadith. Then the next one is Umar. Umar radiallahu anh, he has it about a few hundred, right? Then Uthman radiallahu anh, he has a few hundred, a couple of hundred. Then Ali radiallahu anh, he has a lot more. Okay, he has a lot more. He has about 700 hadith. Then this is the rest of the 10 that were promised paradise. You see how it's not topical. It's not by topic. It's by Sahaba, right? Then it is companions beyond the 10 promised paradise and companions of the household. This is then companions of the household, male, okay? Male. Because the book of women is toward the end. I'll show you. Then there's Banu Hashim. Then it is Abdullah ibn Abbas. This is Abdullah ibn Abbas, the son of Abbas radiallahu anh. Then the prolific narrators from Rasulullah, like who's the number one prolific narrator? Abu Huraira, for example, right, would be in here. But Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Abdullah ibn Umar, Abu Huraira, Sayyid al-Khudri, Anas ibn Malik. So you want to know all their narrations from those Sahaba, you go to a Musnad. Now you understand what the purpose of a Musnad is? But purpose of the Musnad is actually much deeper than what you're thinking here. It was actually, how do we authenticate hadith? Based on chain, right? Guess where the chains are collected? In a Musnad. That's the purpose of a Musnad.
So
it is not for derive. It's to analyze the authenticity. Yes.
So if you wanted to give an isnad to a hadith, you go in here.
No, I mean it's not there everywhere, but this is arrangement of how it is.
But you can kind of verify it like from.
Yeah, I mean you can look at all of that chains. So Musnad Ahmad is one of the largest books of hadith out there. Imam Ahmad is long time ago. Okay, 27,000 plus chains is in Musnad Imam Ahmad. Okay, 27,000 plus.
How many years those people lived?
I'll show you. I know. So he narrated. So his son Abdullah wrote it. There's a lot of narrations in here. I wanted to show you the book of women. You see, this is all just table of contents. Okay, these are all. So if you want to know the name of Sahaba, just the name, just go read the table of contents. You'll get educated on just the names of the Sahaba. Isn't that awesome? Subhanallah. Anonymous companions, because for example, remember the guy who urinated in the masjid? Does he have a name? He doesn't have a name, so he's going to be in here. So for example, hadith of that woman, hadith of that man, hadith of, you see, it's so detailed. It's amazing stuff in here. Okay.
So if on the hadith of a man,
there might be multiple categories. Yeah,
multiple.
Yeah, exactly. See, hadith rajul, hadith rajul, hadith rajul, hadith of a man, hadith of a man. Okay. And then toward the end, there's Musnad of women. Okay, addendum to the Ansar, I guess, and big book of women. So who does it start with? The book, the Musnad of women starts with the Ummahat al-Mu'mineen. Okay. So I think it's here. I think Imam Ahmad starts with Aisha, because she's the most prolific narrator, and Fatima. There's other masanid which actually start with Khadija radiallahu anh as the first one, and then so on and so forth. I think to give you an idea of a musnad. Again, I'm not an expert. Okay, I'm still learning. Okay, I'm still just a minor student of knowledge. Okay, so musnads are fascinating, right? You like it? So there's another one. For example, Musnad al-Bazzar. This is the one that has a really, oh man, I don't have the table of contents on him. Astaghfirullah. Mu'jam al-Kabir of al-Tabarani. It is a huge musnad. As you can see, bab it has all of these alphabetical. They're alphabetically arranged. Okay, bab of alif, bab of ba, bab of ta, bab of tha, and these are typically the alphabet goes along with the first name of the narrator, but sometimes they're topical as well. It's a little bit of a mixed bag. But in here, for example, you will find the Musnad al-Nisa. Okay, An-Nisa, I believe, yes, Musnad al-Nisa. If you look at Musnad al-Nisa, it starts with Banat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the daughters of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so dhikr of Fatima radiallahu anha, and then Zainab is going to be in here, etc., etc. If we look at the table of contents really quickly, table of contents. So Fatima, and then Fatima, Hussein and Ali and Fatima. This is all Fatima, and then Zainab, and then it is going to be Umama. Anyway, well, I just wanted to give you an idea. Okay, so that's a Musnad. It's beautiful. Okay, now let's look at what a Sunan looks like. So you understand a Jami'. I don't need to explain a Jami'. Let's look what a Sunan looks like. So let's look at, for example, Sunan Abū Dawūd. Okay, Sunan Abū Dawūd, the book of Tahara. Immediately, the first chapter, book of Tahara. How to do wudu, how to cleanse yourself, how to go to the bathroom, and then
So
all of this.
with like ibadah part.
Just boom, right here. Starts right here. Yeah, that's the purpose of the book of hadith. You understand? And then it's gonna have the book of. Guess what? The next one will be book of prayer. After Tahara, what is it? Prayer, right? And after prayer, it's going to have all kinds of different prayers. First, it's going to be description of the main prayer. Then it's going to be book of Jum'ah and Eid and so on and so forth. And then it's going to go to Janazah. And then it's going to go into funerals. Okay? And so on and so forth. These are the detailed table of contents. I'll show you the summary. I don't have the summary view, unfortunately. I'm working on it. But I'll show you Sunan Abū Dawūd, the summary of the chapters here. So, book of prayer, book of witr, book of marriage, then divorce, then fasting, jihad, book of sacrifice, book of wills, book of inheritance, book of funerals, book of oaths, book of commercial transactions, book of wages, rent, book of knowledge, drinks, foods, eating, drinking, right? This is all mu'amalat. Yes, good job. So when you pick up a book of fiqh, not a book of hadith, okay, book of fiqh, you find the exact same topics. Inshallah, when we will do fiqh one day, I don't know when, we will see. If you look at the table of contents of the book of fiqh, you'll find all these topics. But book of hadith bring the evidence for the fiqh. Okay, these are the sources to the fiqh. Okay, that's why these books exist. The books of hadith that are sunan. You understand now the purpose of the sunan? Sunan is the plural of sunnah. So what is the sunnah about? Ibadah. What is the sunnah about? Going to the masjid. What is the sunnah of fasting? What is the sunnah of buying and selling? What is the sunnah of getting married? What is the sunnah of X, Y, Z? Right? So that is the sunnah, purpose of the sunnah. So there's another beautiful book of sunnah. It's Sunan al-Dārimī. It's not from the 6 famous books, but also there's a lot of sunans out there. Okay, scholars went ahkam. They were really into ahkam. Okay, really, that's most of our scholarship. After the initial period, after the initial 400 or 500 years, 400 years, a lot of focus was just on ahkam. A lot. So many books of hadith, so many books are written on that, it's not even funny. And to top that up, you have scholars writing books on fiqh. Those books on fiqh are being then summarized into smaller, or poems are being written about them, right? Like the Baiquniya, for example, that's a book of hadith. Different example, but then people are taking those summaries and then writing commentaries on those summaries. And then you have books that give birth to books, that give birth to more books and more books. And it's all around fiqh and ahkam. Allah, that's the same is true for others, but not as much as fiqh. There's been super laser focus in our scholarship on fiqh. Okay. Anyways, because fiqh is very interesting, right? Because okay, what's the case for this? What's the case for this? What's the evidence for your opinion here? Especially in the early period, there was a lot of development of fiqh. Okay, you think we call ourselves Hanbali, Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki, but guess what? We give those names to the progenitors, to to those who actually had the school of thought. Do you think Hanafis now are the thoughts of Imam Abu Hanifa? No, absolutely not. That school developed into more richer rulings that actually today might go against what Abu Hanifa was saying. Same thing for Shafi'i, same thing for Imam Ibn Hanbal, same thing for Malik, okay? So don't think it's like 100% copy paste from the beginning of time to now. They're just called that because there's a school, the methodology overall is the same, but now because at that time there wasn't access to a lot of dala'il, there wasn't access to a lot of hadith. So as people got more educated, more books were written, knowledge was spreading, they're learning from each other. So there was a development of fiqh. Okay, I don't know why I'm going to fiqh discussion, but I just wanted to give you guys an idea. Okay, so going back to books of hadith. So books of hadith are based on that. That's why, for example, the whole purpose of Abu Dawud existing is what? Abu Dawud is saying, I'm bringing to you hadith, authentic or weak, doesn't matter, because I am telling you that this hadith is the amal of the people of my time is based on these hadith, whether they're weak or authentic. So a lot of people, like the junior students of knowledge, they ask us like, why would Abu Dawud put weak hadith in his Sunan? Well, that wasn't what he was doing. He was writing a book on the evidences for fiqh, for the amal of his time, for the people that the fiqh that they were deriving. So if you want to look at, for example, all evidences, fact, okay? If you want to look at all evidences about a particular topic of fiqh, okay? Whether to raise your hands or not raise your hands, and what are all of the evidences of not raising hands, or all of that stuff, you go to Abu Dawud, open up book, look at the book of the Salah, and you'll see all of the evidences. That's how it works. Jāmiʿ, Tirmidhī, same thing. He did the same thing. He is writing his Jāmiʿ is a Jāmiʿ, but he brings a lot of fiqh in there as well. And Imam Bukhari, I told you, is a book on his opinions on the deen overall. Right? He wrote a bunch of topics and then followed that up by evidences proving his position. Imam Muslim, not at all. He has nothing to do with fiqh, nothing to do with anything. All he wanted to do was bring authentic hadith according to his criteria. Am I confusing you guys? Okay, I'm jumping around? Okay. So I just wanted to give you an idea that there's a purpose behind each of the books. Ibn Mājah, the same thing. It's a book on fiqh, it's a sunan. Okay? So, but he brings a lot of weak hadith, but according to him, that's what's being practiced at that time. So let's now take a bird's eye view into the books of hadith, okay? Before we do that, I just want you to know the ages. Like, Imam Abu Hanifa was born 80 Hijrah, one of the earliest huge scholars, right? 80 Hijrah. Can you imagine how early that is? Super early, okay? His time was full of fitna, man, right? This is, Karbala happened 63, right? 60 Hijrah, 63 Hijrah, something like that. So he was born, 20 years after that. Umayyad stuff is happening, and anti-Shia revolts are happening, and Christianity's creeping in, philosophies are being taught that are from Greco-Roman origins and stuff like that creeping into Islam, and Muslims are trying to defend, and there was like a philosophical, when we do Aqidah, I just want you to keep that in mind. Abu Hanifa was born in a time of chaos and in a city of chaos. Okay? just know, okay? And by the way, he didn't travel outside of the city. He didn't. Imam Malik, his contemporary, born 93 Hijrah, the first book of hadith, and I say that in the quotes because so he wrote he compiled the first mass published book of hadith called al-Muwaṭṭaʼ, which means the path. The purpose of Imam Malik was not to necessarily bring a book of hadith. He was documenting the amal of the people of Medina. What are they doing? So he only has about 500 or so hadith in it. The rest of all of his literature in al-Muwaṭṭaʼ is not really hadith. It's really, what do people of Medina say about such and such topic. So his book is more about people. It's not a book of hadith. Okay, that's why I said book of hadith. It's not a book of hadith. It's a book of opinions that he's gathering, learning from his teachers. If you go back to Imam Malik's videos that I shared with you, and then this will make much more sense now. Okay, Imam al-Shafi'i, he didn't compile a book of hadith necessarily. His students did. Like Imam al-Bayhaqi was his student. He wrote a whole book of hadith proving the evidence of the Shafi'i fiqh. But Imam Shafi'i was there around 150 Hijrah, so he's much younger. Remember, he was a student of Imam Malik. They're students of each other. Imam Ahmad was a student of Imam Shafi'i. Imam Ahmad was born 164 Hijrah. So Musnad Ahmad was written between 164 to 241 Hijrah. Okay? Then Sunan al-Dārimī. Remember I told you Dārimī, it's not one of the 6 books, but it's a beautiful book of Sunan. Also, it's pretty early, 81 to 255. And then you have Bukhari. Okay? So Bukhari came 194 Hijrah, he was born. And then he passed away, rahimahullah, 256. And Imam Muslim was his contemporary, or student. Okay? Abū Dawūd also is early on, 202, 207. Imam Muslim, you see, they're all around the same time, 200 to 300 Hijrah. Okay? 200 to 300 Hijrah. Nasā'i, Tirmidhī, Ibn Mājah, Muslim. Then there's other books of hadith. We'll talk about them briefly. There's Ibn Khuzaymah, al-Jārūd, Ibn Ḥibbān, Mustadrak al-Hakim, Sunan al-Bayhaqi. So this area of this time period of the you can say 100 Hijri to, by the way, Abu Hanifa collected 0 hadith. Zero. Okay, he doesn't have a book of hadith. Okay, later on his students collected, made collections of hadith that backed up his opinion. Clear? He doesn't have a Hanafi fiqh has no hadith backing in its origin. Okay. Shafi'i fiqh, the opposite. It is based all on hadith. So he has a book of hadith too. He quotes a lot of hadith in his literature. I think he has. Don't quote me on this. He has a book of hadith, but it's not super popular. But it was Imam Bayhaqi's book that became the evidence for the Shafi'i fiqh. Anyways, Imam Ahmad, Hanbali fiqh, all hadith. What do you think Hanbali fiqh focuses on? It's derived on, okay, I don't want to listen to your opinion. I don't care about your opinion. What does Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam say? Okay, that's Hanbali. I'm Hanbali. I'm just talking about a methodology. I'm not saying that's the best one. That's just methodology. I lean to, but that's. I'm just giving you an idea. Okay. Okay. Where was I going with this? Okay, now the overview of book of hadith. So, Ṣaḥīḥ Bukhari, I think we've talked about that a lot. Ṣaḥīḥ Bukhari has around 7,000 or so hadith with a lot of duplications. One feature of Ṣaḥīḥ Bukhari becomes really, really confusing for early students of knowledge. This is why, it's not for the faint of heart to study Bukhari, okay? Because you'll get confused. He will have one hadith and he'll break it into pieces and present the piece, because one hadith can talk about several topics, right? So he will talk about the piece about this topic and put it under this heading, and he'll take another piece from the same hadith for a different topic, put it under a different subheading. So the same hadith is split across like 3 or 4 sections. Okay, so that's what he did. Imam Muslim. Okay, anything more I want to talk about? Imam Bukhari. No, I mean it is. You already talked about it. It is the most authentic, the most strictest criteria for authentic. So remember, 5 criteria for authentic plus the 4 which are super strict than anyone else. Right? Only then the hadith makes it into Sahih al-Bukhari, and I believe it is said that before putting a hadith in Bukhari, Imam Bukhari rahimahullah prayed 2 rak'ah for every single hadith he put in his book. 2 rak'ah. Okay. And imagine the barakah of Bukhari right now. By the way, at his time, he wasn't super popular for a different reason, but he wasn't super popular. Okay? We'll talk about that during the Aqidah sessions. But later on, 1300, 1200 years of validation and the ratification of Sahih Bukhari is still evident today. Remember, a lot of people have tried to critique Bukhari, and how many maximum hadith they've been able to critique? 5 or 7. Out of 7,500. In 1200 years. 5 to 7 hadith. Can you believe the amount of barakah in his book? It is considered the most authentic book after the Quran. Okay, in Islam. Alright, Muslim. Imam Muslim's purpose, again, very, very, very authentic. The second most authentic book in Islam. How many hadith have been critiqued in it? About, don't quote me on this, it's either in the 20s or in the less than 100. Okay, less than 100. Still, how many total hadith in Muslim? Around 5,600. I don't agree with this number. It's really around 6,700, 7,000. It depends upon how you number the hadith. Okay. By the way, if you haven't really studied a book of hadith, you will have no idea about what I mean by it depends upon how you number, because sometimes it's the same hadith, and the second hadith will have a different chain, and it'll say mislu, the same as before. So do you count that as another hadith or the same hadith? Or you will have one and it's all bunched up together and it says haddathani ... the hadith, and then right in the middle of the hadith there's another haddathani ... and another maybe topic, but it's really related and intertwined. So like, what do you number? Like, you number them separately, differently? So if you look at the numbering system of Muslim, it's like super confusing. Anyways, but it's not just Muslim. All books of hadith are that way. I mean, I'm having a challenge building my website because of that reason, by the way, because I don't know how to number, how to break apart some of the books, some of the hadith. Okay, so you understand Sahīḥ Muslim. He doesn't have super repetition, but remember, any hadith that is shared between Bukhari and Muslim is called muttafaq alayh, right? How many muttafaq alayh hadith are there? It is about 2,000. Okay, so there's a separate book somebody wrote. It's called, I forgot the name earlier and I forgot the name again. It is called al-Lu'lu wal-Marjan. How did I forget this name? The book is called al-Lu'lu wal-Marjan. The pearls and the marjan. Pearls and the seashells, something like that.
Marjan, those spike things like rocks.
Yeah, like the seashells or whatever. Corals. Thank you, Jazakallah khair. Yes, pearls and the corals. So there's a book which brings the shared hadith. Yes, one second. The shared hadith between the Bukhari and Muslim, and that's called muttafaq alayh. How many so as Muslim has additional ahadith than Bukhari, how many more? I don't know. I think it's a lesser number. It's about 1,000 maybe, or less. Yeah, it's less in number. I'll bring it to you. I should have had this. See, a lot of these data points are not very clearly available everywhere, so I've like gathered this information from like various different sources and different lectures and all of that. So, you can take a break. Yeah. Is this fascinating? You guys getting a now you know what books of hadith are out there, what to do with them and the purpose. Hopefully, an idea, right? Inshallah.